If the world was ending and you could save only 116 images as the final record of planet Earth, what kind of moments would you preserve? This is an actual question NASA faced in 1977 when they decided to attach to the Voyager spacecraft's golden records encoded with a selection of photos intended to immortalize life on our fragile planet. And when I look at these pictures, which have now left our solar system and are hurtling out into the cosmic dark, I can't get out of my head how they will probably one day be all that's left of us. In the vacuum of space, these images could last for billions of years, outliving the Earth, outliving the Sun. And though that should maybe be comforting, I think it scares me. Space has long been a birthplace of existential dread. Early astronaut programs were haunted by concerns of space madness, the theory that humans would be mentally and spiritually broken by entering the celestial abyss. It makes sense. Space is a death trap. Without a spacesuit, the very blood in your veins would form bubbles that block circulation, the neurons in your brain exploding with pain until lack of oxygen causes you to pass out, with death arriving just 90 seconds later. Even a successful voyage involves a prolonged period in cramped seclusion surrounded by the hostile dark. Though space madness is no longer an official term, anxiety, mood swings and severe emotional distress have all been documented in those who have touched the void. The idea that a human mind plunged into the infinite sea of space might, drown, has crept into the foundations of how we depict the cosmos. In 2001, A Space Odyssey, the narrative begins in the shallows, depicting a clean, orderly future of space travel, one that would have been comforting to its late 60s audience. Yet in both the film and the novel, these early space scenes are a facade, a veneer of fathomability concealing the gaping maw of the unfathomable. The deeper you descend into the story, the clearer it becomes that all the artificial gravity and neatly divided meals amount to a futile attempt to give order to a chaotic universe. Like space itself, 2001 ultimately proves immense and impenetrable, feeling like something the mind wasn't meant to fully encompass. A counterpoint to this vastness exists in Andrei Tarkovsky's film Solaris. The story of a psychologist sent to a research station where all crew members have become trapped within their own memories, Solaris is technically another tale of spaceborne madness. Yet while 2001 spans from the dawn of humanity to a nebulous future stage of evolution, the scale of Solaris is intensely personal. Despite primarily taking place in space, the film, like the characters, constantly flashes back to small, intimate moments on Earth. Far from a story of humanity's ascension, Solaris makes the case that the maddening power of space has less to do with the stars and more to do with the trauma we carry with us into the dark. Like preserved photographs, the past lingers, both a steadying anchor and a crushing weight, character gasps. In the face of a vast, indifferent universe, how do we decide what moments to hold on to? The game Outer Wilds forces you to confront this question over and over and over again. You play as an alien exploring the cosmos in a worryingly low-tech spaceship, and the main thing you do in Outer Wilds is, well, die. The game is a crash course in why space is so nightmarish. But every failure is an opportunity to learn from your mistakes because, spoiler alert for the first 22 minutes of the game, every time you perish, you're sent backward to the start of a time loop. It's a mechanic that changes the value of each moment. Though I remained cautious for my first few loops, soon began to throw myself into the void without care, all my fears of space blown away. Simultaneously, I began to skip over smaller moments. Why waste time roasting a marshmallow or speaking with a friend if all this is going to be reset anyways? Yet at the end of each life displays images depicting all you accomplished, your very own golden record. It's a feature that subtly reframes what experiences are significant. Watching the sunrise might not get you closer to beating the game, but when your life literally flashes before your eyes, it's the moment that stands out. Yet there's this other moment that stands out. Late into the game, I became separated from my ship. I wasn't too nervous at first. I knew I could definitely catch up with, oh wow, that's really moving. Caught in the gravity of a planet, my ship faded further and further out of view. Soon, it was hopeless. And as I looked out across oblivion, I realized this loop wasn't going to end until I ran out of oxygen. And though I knew I'd wake up back where I'd started, the thought of drifting until then, waiting for my inevitable demise, made me feel, well, it reminded me of a historical fragment I'd learned long ago. The first living thing to orbit the Earth was a dog named Laika. Part of a Soviet experiment to discover the harmful effects of space on a body, Laika's journey through the stars was designed to be strictly one way, sent to space on board a tiny metal coffin. It was assumed she'd die in space from running out of oxygen. Instead, the craft overheated. The last words she likely ever heard were a biologist saying, "Please forgive us." My ill-fated drift through the cosmos didn't end when I ran out of oxygen either. Instead, my body slowly fell into the sun, the voyage concluding in premature flames. Of course, unlike Laika, my journey then continued, although the unsettling experience stayed with me. On board her doomed craft, Laika's heart rate accelerated to 3 times its usual rate. She was terrified. Did she also feel betrayed, I wonder? Did she understand enough of what was happening to feel betrayed? There's a photo of a dog on the golden record, meant to commemorate the loyalty of our canine friends. Please forgive us, Laika. Should she forgive us? The trajectory of this ship is unchanging. In Douglas Trumbull's, a vessel is on an unalterable path towards annihilation. In Claire Denis's, a vessel is on an unalterable path towards annihilation. In Cecile Richards', a vessel is on a "you get it." As a piece of interactive fiction, stands out from the 2 films, telling through pixel art and short snippets of text the story of a lone cosmonaut whose ship is drifting into the sun. Yet despite their hopeless status, the explorer continues to care for the plants aboard their condemned vessel. It's a ritual the protagonists of all 3 pieces of media take part in for different reasons. In, the plants are the last specimens of vegetation from a barren earth, a final record of green. In, the plants are the sole source of food for the main character and his infant child, a matter of survival. Yet none of these characters is going to survive for very long, though they continue to obsess over their plants' health, maintaining their routines even knowing the end is coming. I check on the plants in the greenhouse. I check for bugs. I check the moisture of the soil. I check the dust on the leaves. And when no one is around, I hum to them. Like the crew in, the astronaut in is trapped in their memories, the ship's interior sometimes distorting into a street corner from their past. Memories invade the film with similar abruptness, vignettes from the main character's childhood coming and going without context. It seems reflective of how the protagonist's child only knows Earth from fragmented images on the ship's corrupted hard drive. Instead of a sun, the ship in a headed towards a black hole. And yet the main character continues to raise his child to give her whatever life he can, no matter how short. Despite the looming cosmic destruction, the film argues these moments matter, these memories hold weight. I wish I had made more of an effort to remember, the protagonist says at the end of, I wish I had taken more photos. In addition to images, encoded on the golden record is the Javanese romantic melody Puspawana, translating to kinds of flowers. I think there's something inspiring about this song traveling on, in defiance of the cosmos, billions of kilometers from the nearest flower. There's also something profoundly unsettling about it, because on an interstellar scale, Voyager 1 has gotten nowhere. Even the closest star is trillions of miles further away. Space is so much emptier than we realize. When we think of the planets, our mind goes to the model from classrooms that has them all in a neat row. But space doesn't look like this. It doesn't even look like this. That's still way too close together. It looks like this. That tiny pale blue dot beneath Saturn's rings, that's the Earth. And everything in space is constantly moving, hurtling through the dark at breakneck speeds. We like to think of that darkness as something loud, something that ships can audibly whoosh through. But without air molecules to vibrate, the vacuum of space is silent. There are no explosions either. At least not the fiery type from sci-fi movies. A real space battle would be dead quiet, punctuated only with the occasional burst of heat that would quickly implode. How is anyone supposed to navigate this vast, silent alien sea? In our ongoing search for extraterrestrial life, we've turned to radio waves to make noise in the cosmos. Some of these signals have traveled as far out as 300 trillion kilometers. Want to see that on a map? Here it is. Sorry, I'll zoom in, maybe once more. There, that's the area our messages have reached. It's another pale blue dot, and it's probably an exaggeration because most of our signals, which are primarily a jumble of old TV and radio dramas, likely fall apart after that many light years, the memories blurring into meaningless static. In the game, it is your job to sort through this static. You play as an old man working for a mysterious company in the far reaches of space, using a probe attached to an actual fishing pole to catch and document wayward signals from Earth. Most are a jumble of nonsense, old advertisements and PSAs, but sometimes you'll reel in a love letter or a fragment of history. It's a lonely, isolating experience that encourages you to reflect on the types of messages we've blasted into the void. It made me wonder what an alien intelligence would even make of our detritus. Beyond being time capsules, the golden records are also designed to be messages informing aliens of our planet. After all, the Voyager probes won't dissipate like radio waves, though they're much slower. If by some miracle an alien found and decoded the record they'd discover, along with images and music, sounds of the Earth, including chimpanzee noises like screeches. I'm not entirely sure an alien would understand the intent behind that one. I'm not entirely sure I do. But what if, right? What if these records did make contact? What if extraterrestrials understood their contents and traced the craft back to Earth? The scariest moment of probably wasn't that time I fell into the sun, but when I descended into a fog in the center of a planet and saw, are those stars? They were, in fact, the lights of giant alien anglerfish. And unfortunately, they noticed me. Maybe we don't want aliens to hear us. The dark forest hypothesis is the theory that the reason space seems so devoid of life is because any species that makes too much noise is extinguished by hostile extraterrestrial life. Science fiction has long told stories of humans alerting something to our presence we should have left alone. In some horror fiction, these aliens roll up to our home planet, bringing the destruction directly to us. But I think the scarier incarnation of horror alien is one encountered in the far reaches of space. The aliens in these stories often feel like personifications of the unknown itself, a punishment for our blind, hubristic push into the beyond. It's not just the aliens that make the edge of space horror genre frightening, it's the isolation. Okay, having said that, we now obviously have to talk about the game. Based on the iconic film franchise, this game has you explore an empty ship. Empty, except for, of course, the alien. There's a litany of techniques the game uses to make this creature scary. There's the fact your weapons barely work, the fact it can move through vents, the fact that your only way of tracking it is with this tiny analog screen that forces you to glance away from what's in front of you. But the most effective technique of all has nothing to do with the creature and everything to do with the setting. An effective horror genre space station is basically a haunted house. Though lacking in cobwebs and creaking floors, it is a place of dim corridors concealing monsters, one that sequesters its characters from any hope of rescue. The cosmos beyond the station can be seen as part of the structure, with space itself a single enormous horror set piece, a setting so frightening you almost don't need the alien. Is a space filled with hostile life scarier than a space that's empty? Arthur C. Clarke, author of famously stated, "Two possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the universe or we are not. Both are equally terrifying." Here on Earth, we are perhaps the most sheltered children of the universe. Solar wind from our sun shields us from interstellar radiation, creating an island of safety in the roiling cosmic ocean. Jupiter defends Earth from asteroids like a protective older sibling with its gravitational pull. Earth's magnetic field extends tens of thousands of kilometers into space, safeguarding the surface from deadly charged particles. Mars and Venus didn't get magnetospheres at all. It's difficult to convey just how inhospitable the other planets in our solar system are. Jupiter's great red spot, that little dot on the planet's surface, is a storm larger than the Earth itself. If you were to descend into this maelstrom, temperatures would rise to over 1,300 degrees Celsius, around 2,400 degrees Fahrenheit. Not even the cracked yellowing surface of Venus, otherwise the hottest planet in our solar system, gets that scorching. On the opposite end of the spectrum, the outer ice giants, Uranus and Neptune, spin so far from the warmth of the sun, their atmospheres regularly fall hundreds of degrees below freezing. Beyond our solar system, there are likely billions of exoplanets in our galaxy alone, although we've only managed to spot around 5,000. Given the sheer number of potential Earth-like worlds, it seems that there has to be some other form of life out there. But maybe that's a privileged Earthling perspective. It seems like other beings must exist because, well, we exist. But until we know more about the origin of life, it's challenging to calculate just how lucky we are to be here. Because we've had it so relatively easy, space hasn't always been a source of fear. In the past, some cultures assumed it was a flat backdrop, a shallow dome of tiny lights surrounding a globe that sits at the center of the universe. Even as our understanding grew and the scale of the solar system became more and more apparent, many assumed we'd find other habitable worlds right next door. In the late 19th and early 20th century, the idea that Mars or the Moon might be full of undiscovered life didn't seem so far-fetched. When your only frame of reference is the lushness of Earth, space seems like it would be jam-packed with extraterrestrials. Though once a distant dream, space travel, too, was once portrayed more flippantly. In Jules Verne's 19th century novel, the lead characters make it to the moon by shooting their vessel out of a giant cannon, because why not? It's difficult to imagine the true nature of space. A place where, without gravity, your bones rapidly lose density. A place where the lack of days and nights creates insomnia. A place of silent, inhospitable lifelessness. Perhaps the closest thing to true space madness manifested during the 1976 Soviet mission, Soyuz 21. The operation was supposed to be routine, involving a 60-day stay on board the Salyut 5 space station. But just a few weeks in, the crew claimed a maddening odor had filled the cabin, a smell so toxic and persistent the operation had to be called off. Yet, allegedly, upon the reserve crew's arrival, no unusual smell or fume leakage was detected. The scent was likely an intense delusion, a nightmare born from claustrophobic conditions mixed with the psychological terror of the cosmic vastness. Perhaps it's better to remain on the ground. But even in Earth's protective embrace, we are not completely safe from the cosmos. Asteroids hurled from the beyond aren't just the stuff of disaster movies. Space rocks large enough to trigger mass extinctions have struck our planet in the past, wiping out far greater dynasties of life than humanity. Even with Jupiter looking out for us, the Earth has close calls all the time. And even if we aren't on a collision course with an apocalyptic asteroid, we are on a collision course with the Sun. A few billion years from now, our star will become a red giant, and in all likelihood, swallow the Earth. And even if we don't end in fire, the Sun, like all stars in the universe, is eventually going to die. In 1816, many people became terrified that the Sun's death was imminent. Telescopes discovered massive sunspots growing like mold upon the solar surface, and temperatures began to drop. This event, called the Year Without Summer, saw then unprecedented snowfall in the Northern Hemisphere. In the resulting chaos, the somewhat infamous Lord Byron was inspired to craft an apocalyptic eulogy simply titled Darkness. I had a dream, which was not all a dream. The bright sun was extinguished, and the stars did wander darkling in the eternal space. Rayless and pathless, and the icy earth swung blind and blackening in the moonless air. Of course, the sun did not go out in 1816. The sunspots actually had nothing to do with the falling temperatures. The winter's true origin was the eruption of the Mount Tambora stratovolcano in the Pacific, which blanketed the globe in volcanic gas. Though this shroud eventually lifted, I see it as a reminder of how fragile Earth's atmosphere is, of how little change it would take to make our planet just another barren rock. Perhaps impermanence is the true most frightening aspect of the cosmos. Even our galaxy won't endure forever. In roughly 4.5 billion years, the Milky Way will collide with the Andromeda galaxy, the galactic fender bender flinging untold stars out into the void. It makes you wonder what the point is. If nothing lasts, if everything in the universe is on an unchangeable arc towards annihilation, why try to preserve anything at all? What meaning could a single image, a memory, a life possibly have? Maybe permanence isn't what gives something value. Yes, every plant is going to wilt, every radio signal is going to decay, every marshmallow is going to burn or be digested. On a cosmic scale, the golden record probably isn't going to get very far. So what? On a personal level, things that have been lost still matter. Moments still linger, the night sky can still move us, even with the knowledge that one day every light will go out. The trajectory of this ship is unchanging. I'm still going to water the plants. And hey, as always, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to support the channel, consider liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification icon to stay up to date on all. See you in the next video.